Do you really think you have a chance against us, Mr. Cowboy?
Hey, motherfucker, what do you like to do?
Oh, I don't know. Play chess. Screw.
Well, let's play chess.
They give off to Jonathan Taylor. Jump cutting his way close to the goal line. He's in there. Touchdown. I-N-D-Y. Jonathan Taylor.
Wheeler finds Quan from the logo.
Here's Halliburton into the front court. Mishandled it, but gets a shot. Hits it. Hits it.
John, I have never been better to be on the air with you here in Indianapolis, a place where so many of my dreams have come true.
The Ride with JMV on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome in, new week. It's a Monday. Thank you all for joining us in studio. I know I got to get back out. Somebody's got to get me back out. These Thursday and Fridays are a mess for me. I was telling Hammer and Nigel when we do our pre-show meetings together, and now I've just gone ahead and I've taken over a lounge area out in front of where our studio is. Our new studios are here. I call it studio number 11 for a variety of reasons, but I sit right out there. We were all out there talking. Nathaniel was there with us too. Todd Meyer was there. I said, I got to get back out a little bit. I miss it. I miss you guys. I miss hanging out with you guys. Now, we can do that here, and that's okay, but the whole face-to-face and hanging out before and after, yeah, we got to get that thing back and running again. It was pretty boring at times. Super Bowl 60. But there were some moments that did capture it. I think we were all just going in anyway, right, with a preconceived notion that it was going to suck. So really, it would have had to have blown our particular opinions out of the water to change our mind. And that is really on a lot of things. If you've already hedged on what you believe, there's probably not much that will change that opinion. And you can look at yesterday from a variety of angles. Now, I choose to just look at it from a purely football and sports angle to start right here. And the quarterback play wasn't great. You saw a former Hoosier score a touchdown. You saw a guy that has been much maligned over his career really not have a good game at all in Sam Darnold, but it's nice that he did cash in finally. You saw two teams in the Super Bowl that should tell you this. And as a Colts fan, I don't know if you developed that realization or recognition yesterday, and there's no way I was the only one. And this is not something we shared with the public and social media last night or anything, but I'm not going to take the stance of, well, you know, the Colts were just as, because they're not. They're not really good at anything except being mediocre and disappointing. And I'm sorry, that is the general rule on this bunch until they're able to change our minds. And this is over and over and over again. Until they're able to change our minds. That's the rule. That's what we're going to believe. But you watched that game yesterday, and then you do think back. You had 90-year-old Phillip Rivers and the Colts on the road. That defense didn't look really too much like that. And then you had New England representing the AFC in the Super Bowl. I was on with Tony Katz this morning, and Tony Katz said, hey, you know, how bad is the rest of the AFC if that's your rep? That's the way things work out. I'm not here to tell you that the Colts are close. I'm here to tell you that's why you don't settle. If there's one example that the Patriots can give to you, God, with that level of quarterback play, which was beyond awful from Drake May, awful. That's about as bad and as hysterically critical you can be with a player that's in year two at that position with a team that is on its way up, I would guess. But that is as critical as you can be. Normally you're saying, well, you know, it's year two and they have plenty of time. And, you know, everybody immediately brings up Dan Marino in a similar capacity who never got back with the Dolphins. But you can easily say that. But I can easily sit here and tell you they weren't any good yesterday. He wasn't any good yesterday. That makes me feel worse about the team here. So if that is the bar that is set in the AFC and you don't even make the postseason, you don't get a sniff of it for the final 2 weeks of the regular season, and everything's going to be okay when you cross your fingers around here, I think that should make you even more critical of the team locally because that was your AFC rep. I guess others had excuses. Denver had an excuse. Late excuse, but hell, they weren't that good either. It makes Buffalo look really bad with Josh Allen, and then you got to run your coach and bring in a new guy to lead. Yeah, that was an awful rep of the AFC, but it shouldn't make anybody around here feel better about how close things are because you're not. So you can't do what New England did. They did with not a lot, just kind of grind their way through the AFC and take advantage of situations until they firmly hit that wall in Santa Clara yesterday. You got to give credit where credit is due, even if the performance was craptacular, and that's exactly what it was. The offense was brutal to watch. If I had two things, I couldn't see another punt, and I couldn't hear that horn sound one more time. I don't know. I guess, is that a staple of Santa Clara, the horn? The foghorn? Is that what that is? Lord have mercy. Unplug that. I want to hear what you have to say about not liking Chris Collinsworth or what you felt about the halftime show. There's nothing worse than that stinking horn. It just seemed like it was going off. It was like the loudest thing of the broadcast. But I just sat there last night and equated it to where we are because everything does run back through what matters to you, what matters to us the most. And clearly what does would be the Colts. That should not make you feel any better. Even with that turd in a punch bowl performance by New England as the AFC rep, at least they grinded. That's what they got to the Super Bowl with. I mean, hell, most of the time around here, even during the best of conditions, this team can't sniff the postseason. Yet you believe enough in it to run it back. I know it feels bad. We're coming off Super Bowl 60 and what happened yesterday, and I picked this moment to go ahead and rip on the Colts, but why not? That's the first thing, again, because I gravitate to the local storylines, not so much what you care about or what people are talking about in New England, but what matters around here. And you should not feel comfortable in the fact that, well, the AFC is wide open. It's not. It's not wide open because this team, this organization, doesn't give itself a chance to make things wide open. They shut the door on themselves. It's exactly how I felt yesterday watching that game. John Schneider, not Bo Duke. John Schneider, the general manager for the Seattle Seahawks, is now a noted genius, and why not? And we're also talking about a couple of rinse and repeat. And it's funny, didn't happen for New England yesterday. But we've seen this out of Seattle, and this is a quality I think that, again, the Colts could take away if they had any ability to take away from it. And that quality is you may not have what you would call your major advantage going. Whatever that might be. Maybe it's Jonathan Taylor in the running game, or maybe you don't have your normal quarterback. That's probably the most useful, I think, description we can use given the circumstances. Or, maybe some other things are shut down. But Seattle's been capable in the postseason. We've witnessed it. We witnessed it yesterday with the defense stepping up, and we witnessed that with the defense squabbling on the sideline in the NFC title game against the Rams and the offense picking it up. You're not always just going to sink or swim with what normally is your major asset. You can find other ways and other abilities to win. That's the other thing I thought about in terms of the Colts. They can't do that. If one thing doesn't work, well, hell, it's all over. That's done. Well, this doesn't work, so clearly we can't move forward. We're done. So if you're going to take a couple things away, those are the two things here locally for the Colts. And it's not like I'm breaking any new ground on these philosophies right here that I have, but that's exactly what you should have noticed yesterday when you try to compare those participating in that game to something that would make more sense to you, and that is your Colts team. That's what it does. It describes to you how far they are away and how a false sense of security that you have about a group and a staff, what makes anybody think that this is going to change anytime soon just because New England didn't have a good game and their quarterback was awful? I mean, it was awful offensively. They did grind enough to get there, and that is certainly something that you don't see with this group here. And then Seattle, it just seems like they've given you different examples of their team and their normal assets, which may not be working to the level in which you get used to, but other areas have stepped up and helped them win games. That's called a complete team effort. And that's something you should get down with here. That is certainly something you don't have here. So a couple of local angles for you with the Super Bowl from yesterday, Super Bowl 60. 29-13 was the final. The Seahawks over the Patriots. It was like bits and pieces you take away of excitement. Then other than that, like I wanted that fight to last a little bit longer. The fight last a little bit longer. And we're also lucky because there was a Seinfeld marathon going on Comedy Central or whatever it is now, Comedy Channel, whatever the hell that is, going opposite of it. So, in times of, it's funny, I more would like turn over during the actual game itself and then make sure I double back to see some of the commercials. The Dunkin' commercial was awesome. Yeah, and it makes sense, too. I got this from people. Why are we getting such a 90s overload? Well, because one, in the NFC and your Super Bowl 60 champion, Seattle, they are most noted for what? Well, fishing, halibut, seafood, but beyond that, they are noted. They are the kings of the 1990s, not the team, but the location. So it'd make a lot of sense if you're out there and you're a media company trying to come up with some sort of plan. You're going to sink all this investment, all this money into a 30-second commercial during the Super Bowl. It would stand to reason you've got a lot of audience that's angled toward the 90s. And I'm telling you now that the 90s, we're with the 90s on how we've been for the 80s. And then prior to that, how we were for the 70s and the 60s. We've now trickled over to that being the most glorious of the decades. Which you're probably right is going to age me out one of these days. But I understood completely why you would go and you would have a constant barrage of 90s references. I mean, hell, every single go to break when Seattle does something well, go to break is, the song they play going to break. How many times was it something with a 90s Seattle flavor or Seattle sound? That's what NBC does anyway with these Sunday night matchups, and they just transferred that to football's biggest stage, and I thought it worked out great. Now, it does help that that's where I'm angled. I like that a great deal. That does help. The Dunkin' commercial was solid. It took me a moment. I was trying to figure out who all was in it. Anybody else? I'm going, I don't know if this is my thought process, my brain. A part of it is I'm not just very bright in general, but I was trying to catch up to see Jason Alexander, Urkel, Matt LeBlanc, Joey from Friends. You saw Aniston and Affleck. Good, strong 90s references the entire time. The Backstreet Boys had something there, whatever that Coinbase thing was, whatever that was. James is shaking his head, but James is not. They haven't hit your era yet. They didn't have any Lamb of God to play.
I was actually just shaking my head because it was a crypto commercial. And
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought it was Coin. It was not Coinbase. Was I wrong?
Well, Coinbase is, I think, crypto.
Oh, I have no idea what
Yeah.
any of that stuff is. I should probably. I watched the halftime show with Bad Bunny, Lady Gaga, and Ricky Martin. The thing that incredibly occurred to me is I don't know how they keep all this stuff together. There's a lot going on out there. Yeah, I know. They rehearse, but there's a lot going on out there. I was entertained. It's funny. I can be entertained by music I don't really understand, music I don't often listen to. I can. Funny. I brought this up. I'm a noted non-fan of Meatloaf. And I've said this before. This is the first time ever, by the way, Bad Bunny's been compared to Meatloaf here, but I'm just making a statement on comparison on how I get through things and not just make mine and everybody else's experience miserable like most people try to do. And that's exactly what happened to social media. It is the job, and you can tell whose job it is. They try to, the influencers, the influences of misery. Man, I would not take that bait if I were you, because I know this to be true. Life can already be as miserable as possible. The last thing you want to do is have a halftime show play a significant role in any added misery. Why would you do that? So don't let these misery brokers bait you into being that. I wouldn't. It doesn't matter if you don't like it, if you do like it. That's good. But my point about Meatloaf was, I've always thought, and I have a no Meatloaf zone on Saturday night. I have played it twice. I always wanted to do an interview with him. He's no longer with us. I always thought he was incredibly talented, but I'll be damned, his songs go on forever. And I never have been a rock opera guy. Go, good Lord. And I've said this before. I like the songs that come at you, hit you hard. Like, you get songs, I give you a great example, like Nirvana and Breed. I love it. It just comes out, goes like 3:05, it comes out. And if Breed by Nirvana, James, were a move, it'd come right out and kick me right square in the junk and then rock really hard and then leave immediately. I mean, just wait. Yeah, I'm just come right out. I'm going to hit you right square in the sack and then I'm getting out of here. I like that. I like, you get to the point, you go at it hard, and then you vacate the premises. With Meatloaf, it's always been, and I've had these, can you imagine having this debate with my mom? Lord have mercy. There's a long debate, lengthy, because she loves her some Meatloaf and loves her some Bat Out of Hell, but it just goes on. Let me sleep on it, baby. Okay, I get it. You want to get some? She's not going to get you some unless you take that next step, and you're thinking about telling her you're going to take that next step. She's not, I get it, Meatloaf, all right? Jeez. But the talent is evident and always has been evident. I get that. And I think that's something you could take away from last night. I thought everything that was put together, think about how painstakingly in a length of time it takes to put something like that together. And unless you just thought, well, you know what, it's not in the English language, I'm just going to go ahead and bail. And again, you had the misery brokers. They baited you into that preconceived notion. If you're going to be that person, then you were probably going to bail and there was going to be no coming back. But I guarantee you there were some out there that thought, you know what, I'm kind of interested where it goes next, because I didn't have any idea what was being said either. None. I took 2 years of Spanish with the awesome Betty Dixon, and all I learned were cuss words and cuss phrases. That's it. I loved it because we went to Chi-Chi's on a field trip. It was great. We went to the Museum of Art up here, and then to, anybody remember Casa Gallardo out on the west side on West 38th Street? I love my 2 years of Spanish, but I don't know anything. But I do feel, and this is just me, and you may be different, and that's okay. But I can be entertained by things I don't understand. It doesn't have to be something like Andy Griffith's show I've seen 1,000 times. I found myself, without anybody's influence whatsoever, kind of curious about what was next. And I just think the whole acting and the interaction that's going on during that and all the moves, I think that portion of it's incredible. And believe me, this is not the first time that I didn't understand words in a song, James. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell Mama Say, Mama Saw, the Microsaw means. I have no idea. But I damn straight love that Michael Jackson song, by God, I do. Mama Say, Mama Saw, the Microsaw. Yeah, what the hell am I saying here? It goes on for like 5 minutes. I have no idea what it means. I don't care. It sounds good. I didn't care last night. It sounded good. And visually, my eyeballs were entertained. Hell, that's all you want. Hey, believe me, if they did Foo Fighters every single year, I'd raise my hand and go, hell yeah. But I didn't mind it. Mama Say, Mama Saw, the Microsaw. Yeah, it's like a minute long. You have a long version of that. It goes on forever. It doesn't mean a damn thing. I'm still trying to figure out what the hell the Papa Tense of Love is from Steve Miller. That dude's from Texas, for God's sake. Boss Skaggs was a part of that band then. The hell's a Papa Tense of Love? And then you can go even further. All of us, and I mean, this is all of us in this same gang. This is where we're all unified. All of us constantly, and I mean for years, for decades, for eras, for centuries, have done what? We all get the lyrics wrong. There's a song that you're going to drive. Now, listen, you bail on me and I'm going to be mad. But when you turn over and you listen to some music, the next time you listen to some music, I guarantee you're going to play a song that you like a great deal and you're going to blank up the lyrics. We all do. So whatever entertains your ears, and it doesn't matter whether it's Bad Bunny or Kid Rock or Brantley Gilbert. You know, I've had Brantley Gilbert on this show before, and he was a really good dude. Doesn't matter. Whatever you like, you like. But just don't let everybody dictate the terms on what you do like and what you shouldn't like. Make that decision on your own. That's how I go about the business. And my competence of love. All right, 239-1070. We could talk about that. I know you got some calls. The foul call was legit on Saturday. Now, and I'm going to give credit where credit is due. I know I got to hit a break here. But Connor Enright, he had a great quote after the game. He said, you know what? We were fouling, and I thought, if I were going to foul, I might as well see while I'm trying to foul if I can draw a foul. I thought that was brilliant. Brilliant. Those are game-winning plays made. And you guys are right. Wisconsin fans leaned on Brad Davison, did that crap all the time, and it drove absolutely everybody in the Big Ten nuts. That was a bad call. Was it that Serrato, the official? Is his name Serrato? Look it up. Hey, James, look up the officiating crew on Saturday in Bloomington with Wisconsin and IU. Whoever it was did a great impression of Ted Valent. My man did a breakdancing routine all the way down the sideline. Seriously, I thought it was like breaking. I thought that was electric breaking to electric boogaloo. Give me the three names.
It was Larry Serrato.
Is that who it is?
Yeah.
I think that's who it is. I didn't know his name was Larry. Yeah, Lawrence was digging the call he made. You know, I give credit to Connor Enright because you had one job to do, and that was go out and get a foul, but he tried to create something out of nothing right there. I mean, hell, that's what you do as a player. That foul, though, against Blackwell on Wilkerson, that was legit. Matt, I know I don't have to tell him this, but Matt got some dudes that look incredibly unhappy right now. And I think it even goes past Trey Kaufman. I'm going to give you an angle that you may not completely understand, but I'm going to see if you agree with that regarding Purdue Boilermaker basketball. They win, and that's okay because those are the expectations. With Purdue and expectations, you can win and have a but. They won, but. By the way, IU Oregon coming up later on tonight, too. Pacers a loser in Toronto yesterday. Pacers back at it against New York coming up tomorrow. Chad Buchanan, the Pacer general manager, is going to join us on the show. That is coming up tomorrow. Josh Schertz, head coach at St. Louis, coming up. We believe Stephen Holder of ESPN coming up. James, we have stuff to give away?
We do not.
Seriously? How do we not have anything to give away? Go up on 3 and get something to give away. Stream the app, HD Radio, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live, 317-239-1070, text line, 239-1070, phone line. I'm here for you, 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Hey, I'm John here. 9 years I've been with. We got to redo this commercial that's on TV, though, because I look like I'm the lead singer of Rascal Flatts. But seriously, both he and I have great hair. I have great hair thanks to Darren Andrews at 317-522-2995. WeGrowHairIndy.com. Anybody out there want the option? I've always said this. It's just what you dig. It's what you dig. If you want to be bald, be bald. There's nothing wrong with it. If you want your real growing hair again, I'm here to present what we all love. We all love options. 317-522-2995. Darren Andrews has all the options for you. So WeGrowHairIndy.com today.
The Ride with JMV.
Attention, whoever you are, this channel is reserved for emergency calls only.
Lady, do I sound like I'm ordering a pizza?
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Crank it up, James. Mama say, Mama said, Makusa. Mama say, Mama said, We had no damn idea what the hell this meant. Nobody did. And we weren't bugged by it. That bother you guys back then? We just got down to this right here. I know that it goes back to, I think it was a soul act back in the early 70s. Hey, crank this up, James. This guy goes on for a minute. We have no idea what the hell this is saying. There's no meaning. But we love it. You know what, James? Just play the rest. I'm going to leave. This is awesome. I think we just play this the rest of the show.
Just over and over for the next 3 hours?
Yeah, I don't know why it mattered so much last night, but yeah, evidently it did, because you guys, I shouldn't say you guys, not all you guys. I just suggest try not to be influenced by the merchants of misery, okay? Just try not to. And I'll tell you this, if you need a helper, I'm here. Because I don't jack with this stuff. Because I'm not cranking it out of bed at the age of 56 every day to be miserable. And the merchants of misery, and I don't have to tell you who they are because you guys know. The merchants of misery will drag you down to the depths and then make $1 or $2 off your ass. Don't be that. Oh, yeah, for a moment I did too. We'll have to look up exactly what Susudio means because I guarantee it doesn't mean a damn thing. Understand that one either. Well, I don't know. I don't understand a word that's being said. That's Susudio. Sycamores later on tonight, Southern Illinois. That was a battle of 10 and 14 squads right there at the Holman Center in Terre Haute. All right, I may have something to give away if my brother gets back with me. Matt Goins, AAA, asked me, but I have yet to get a response. He heard me saying and crying, whining, moaning, complaining that we had nothing to give away today. He said, hey, do you think if we gave away some IU Oregon tickets and a parking pass, they would be used? I can flat guarantee you that they would be used. I'll trust you guys to use them. I'll track you guys down if you don't. Oregon and Indiana. In fact, it's an 8:30 game later on tonight, so hell, plenty of time. By the way, 7:30, Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers, 93 WIBC. Oregon and Indiana. Oregon looked really good at times against Purdue, although I would argue that Purdue looked really down most of the time. Right now, Purdue has some energy being sucked out of the gym. And I don't know if over portions of that game, and somebody can tell me if you were there, maybe we'll get Rob or Buckets on the show tomorrow. It seemed like at Mackey on Saturday that there was zero energy. And I thought the crowd didn't have the energy because the team didn't have the energy. You've got some energy suckers going on right now. And it doesn't really matter who it is or whose fault it is. What matters is that you rectify the situation and do that stat. You've had some really good seasons. Championship game 2 years ago. You know, you get bounced by the 1 seed in Houston in a classic game last spring. And this obviously goes all the way back to Fairleigh Dickinson, and people bring up St. Peter's and all that. But after that, you go to the championship game and you wipe the slate. But this would be yet another layer to Boilermaker fans living in misery if this team fails to reach the expectations. And simply put, that's why we have expectations, is for a team like this, other teams, to be able to reach that. And you're critical of a team and you're critical of players, you're critical of a staff if they plateau. And this team right now looks like it's plateaued. But I would argue that this is more a function of something that you can change if you want. And you look at Purdue, I don't know how many people have noticed this, but I was talking about this before the show. You have Braden's turning the ball over too much. Trey Kaufman-Wren looks like somebody that just is not enjoying playing basketball. But constantly in the crosshairs of Boilermaker fans has been Fletcher Lawyer. Well, Fletcher Lawyer's not knocking down shots. He can't be out there. He can't defend anybody. But I would make this argument regarding Fletcher Lawyer. I can't tell if things are going great or lousy for him. And that's a good thing. You know how much easier it is to get through crappy performances, to get through a shooting slump when you're not concentrating on one or the other? And I know when you knock down shots, that's always feel good. I mean, hell, that's easy. But it's getting through those moments when you're stinking up the joint and you know it, and then better yet, people are telling you about it. But I have a great deal of added admiration for Fletcher Lawyer because I can't tell. I think a lot of these other guys are wearing how they're playing and wearing their attitudes on their sleeve. I think we can see it. With him, he just goes out and plays. I think if everybody else on that team would establish that attitude, I mean, really, with this group right now, it can be short term because you're talking about a crew that, for the most part, is going to be gone that you've known for the past 4 years. So you have time to fix it. But I would look to Fletcher Lawyer, and I don't care if he's 0 for 5 or if he's 4 for 5. He looks the damn same. But you have other dudes on that team that look absolutely miserable about being a part of it right now. That's an energy sucker, and that is incredibly counterproductive to winning. And that can also suck the life out of your competitive edge or just competition in general. So as much crap as Fletcher Lawyer gets, I'm going to give him admiration on it because that's what you need. You need to be able to go through those tough times just like you go through the better times. And I think it is a fantastic asset to have if you really can't tell. You might be 0 of 4, but when you hit that fifth, you're the best shooter in the gym. Man, that plays a role upstairs. That's confidence. So shout out to Fletcher Lawyer because I can't tell. And with his teammates, I can. It's problematic. IU Oregon coming up later on tonight. As I mentioned, 8:30 is that tip time. 7:30 coverage on 93 WIBC. I mentioned 239-1070. Email address is jmv@1075thefan.com. AAA membership lounge via YouTube Live. Become a AAA member today. I'm going to really try to see if Matt Goins can hook us up with these tickets because I feel terrible about rolling in here on a Monday with jack squat to give away. That simply put cannot happen. JMV, the body language of Purdue looks almost identical to what IU looked like under Woodson. I would argue that those guys look tired of one another right now. But again, I look at Fletcher Lawyer, and he's gone through some serious shooting slumps, but I can't tell. All right, so he's not the best defender. Neither are you. Neither am I. But at least he looks like he's out there doing the same thing in enjoyment and missing a lot of shots or making a lot of shots. This team needs an energy injection right now. And my guy from Southern Indiana, come on now. You cannot be an energy sucker being from Southern Indiana. Well, unless you live on the other side of the White River in Greene County, and then you go, geez, where am I? You know what I mean? But Trey Kaufman-Wren, Needs a bit of a wake-up call right here. JMV, I know you've had him on your show before, but I heard Ray Fell, that's Rayfel Davis, by the way, saying he thought Purdue has a leadership problem, and I trust Davis because he's closely connected with the team. I would agree with that, too. These guys are slumped over at times, and they just don't look like they're having any enjoyment. And if you're a talented team, that's where it should start. Now, it's easy to go through the good times, the feel-good moments when you're breaking records and winning games, knocking down threes, the paint crew's fired up. But those moments that are tougher are the ones you have to get through. And simply put, you're fortunate to win that game on Saturday, but it's okay because of the level of expectations with this group to say, yeah, but. Yeah, you beat Oregon, but. That, to me, is incredibly true. JMV, the storytelling was great with the halftime show. I didn't really understand the story, but I found myself going, yeah, you know what? Cool. I don't know what's next here. And you know I'm a tremendous fan of high-level gyrations because, I'm Mr. Gyration. That was a high-level gyration halftime show. I love that. And again, if you like the other one, then you like that's good. Somebody asked me last night, I can't believe it. Somebody said they were sad. I go, wait, what? There are so many things you're going to be sad about, or you have the opportunity to show that emotion and be sad about. Don't make what I watch on a Sunday evening one. All right? It doesn't matter. It shouldn't matter to you. Who cares? It should not matter what I watch. Don't be sad about that. It makes me sad. No, it shouldn't. Other things are going to make you sad. You might spill your beer. You might drop a Cheeto down because you know this, or you're, whatever. It's weird, right? Like you can play basketball and I could be like 0 of 9, but everything that I drop in my vehicle finds its way in that centimeter crack between the seat and the console in the center. It doesn't matter. It always goes. It doesn't matter. Does not matter. I'm like 90%. But yeah, it shouldn't make you sad. I actually saw Kid Rock at Pick-a-Chick Farms in 1999. Monroe County, Bloomington, Indiana. It was Kid Rock. James, I blank you not on this. Kid Rock, Cypress Hill, and Stained. Very early Aaron Lewis and Stained. And I knew it was going to be a wild one because they were bussing kids in from IU in Bloomington. And when you get to Pick-a-Chick, it's like a roller coaster. It's like an amusement park ride in its own right. And they're on these rickety, they're on these rickety buses. And I'm standing out, walking up from my car, and about 5 girls got off that bus and immediately puked all over everything. Just get off the bus and But it was Cypress Hill, Stained, and Kid Rock back in 1999 at Pick-a-Chick. Man, there was zero energy at Mackey on Saturday. Not even the paint crew could get excited about anything. That's on the players. And I would suggest it's one thing to play that way, but to look that way, that's something you can't easily forgive. Come on. What did Morris Day say in Purple Rain? I want to see some asses wiggling. I want need Morris Day to give the pregamer. Quick break. We'll come back with you guys. Top of the hour, Josh Schertz, the head coach of St. Louis. Stephen Holder's going to join us coming up in the 5 o'clock hour. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. If you guys want to recap what I said regarding the Colts in a relatable with the Super Bowl game and those two teams, we can. Your thoughts on the game itself. IU Oregon later on tonight. Chad Buchanan tomorrow, Pacer general manager, and a lot more. Don't go anywhere. Hey, it's John here for, you got that right, the District Tap. You got 2 locations, north side of Indy at Clearwater Crossing and in downtown Indianapolis, too. Damn good food, happy hour specials, and televisions everywhere. You're not going to miss a moment. For example, if you go out later on tonight, you can watch a little bit of hoop that's on, too. You can watch IU, Oregon, whatever the case might be at the District Tap. Got 2 locations. Great way to start out a Monday and a work week right here to end that Monday with the damn good food, happy hour specials at the District Tap. And then anything going on downtown, make sure you're a part of that. A block from the field house. It's got you covered. For example, hopefully you went over and watched my brother from another mother on Saturday night and then posted back up post-show as well at the District Tap, just a block away from the field house. Find out more, live music, and all the entertainment they offer, thedistricttap.com.
The Ride with JMV.
Have you ever killed anyone?
Yeah, but they were all bad.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Turn it up, James. That doesn't mean a damn thing right there, my friends. But we love it. You ever see American Psycho? You know, hey.
Once.
Hey, look, I want to do that move that Christian Bale did. You guys watching? AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Do you remember this moment in American Psycho with this song playing? Hey, Christian Bale did the point, too.
Oh, yeah.
That was great. The point.
I looked it up, and I'm pretty sure it said Phil Collins just made up the word while he was writing the song.
There's nothing wrong with it. It's whatever entertains you. whatever entertain. I'm not trying to preach at you guys. I mean, I don't know why you would make a halftime show bug you that much. I don't know why. Well, I do know why, because for some of you out there, you have the merchants of misery get in your dome. They're going to get in there and they're going to grift, and then they're going to take your money out of your wallet at the same time. Yeah, just it's okay to like what you like. You're not hurting anybody. It's just music. Yeah, I didn't understand a damn thing about last night, but I go all the way back. What was the one with the shark, the halftime show with the shark?
I think that was
Katy Perry,
yeah.
And Coldplay?
Yeah.
Hey, I used to make fun of Nickelback. I don't think I'd make fun of Nickelback now because, well, for one, people will tell you, you go to a Nickelback show and it's absolutely loaded with hot chicks. So, evidently, the dudes think that's good. But even Coldplay, make fun of Coldplay was one of the better shows I've ever seen in my life. True story. Now, they had a stage that kind of looked like a weenus, but that was weird. But whatever. I would too. If I had a stage, I probably would do the same thing. JMV, while we're at it, what the heck is Susudio? I love me some Phil Collins, but this may be the number one of the most made-up song words of all time. No, I enjoyed the halftime show. And maybe you didn't. And if you don't like the music or you don't like the whole rap and the music, that's fine. But don't let others tell you you don't, and that's why you don't. Just make up your own mind. And believe me, you'll feel much better for it. I promise. The merchants of misery, man, they just want to keep you guys chasing your own tail every day. Josh writes this. This is a fun question. If you had to pick which you would choose, if you would do a year without listening to music or watching sports, I think that's easy. I can't do anything without music. Nothing. Zero. Not without music. I can't function without music. Yeah, this is Matt Painter doing his Morris Day. Let's have some asses wiggling. I want some perfection. This date back in 1979, one of our favorite all-time films of this show made its debut. That would be Walter Hill's classic, The Warriors. This date back in 1979. The Warriors. And Swan has indeed been on this show before. Great film. And it looks really, at times, incredibly hokey. But it is a great film. I know Josh Schertz is going to join us coming up on the other side. I'll get some of your thoughts. I know I've been holding off on your calls at 239-1070. You guys can get in here. We'll take them coming up at the 4 o'clock hour. I'm going to find out here. I think I have IU Oregon tickets to give away. Nice seats, parking pass. You guys be interested? I'll set this up for you coming up on the other side, too. Shout out to Matt Goins, the prez of AAA, AAA.com, AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. And again, all you have to do is download the AAA app to your smartphone, hit a button, and boom, there it is. We'll get something from Matt, see if we can set you guys up with it before the end of the show. I'll give you guys a shout. Stephen Holder still to come. Josh Schertz, the one-loss St. Louis Billikens, former Indiana State head coach, is having a fantastic season in the A-10 in St. Louis. Josh is scheduled to join us coming up on the other side. The Stream the app. AAA Membership Lounge via YouTube Live. Your reaction to Super Bowl 60, the connection, the relatables to the Colts, Pacer conversation, Chad Buchanan tomorrow, that and more. Sit tight. This is 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Oh, I got a great idea for you. LD Smith Plumbing and Drains, the best in plumbing at 317 927 7186. That is our friend Lance, who's going to make sure that whatever your plumbing needs are, they're going to be met. So I have gathered, weather-wise, that the temperatures are going to warm up. I mean, you have to be warmer than they have been around here the past 3 or so weeks. Temperatures are going to warm up, and the snow will melt. Make sure that you have no clogs in any drains around your home, because this water is going to ultimately have to go someplace. Make sure you're clog-free. Call on the best to do that. LD Smith Plumbing and Drains at 317-927-7186. And if these cold temperatures, if they've compromised your plumbing in any shape or form, call on the best. Even if you're not in need of plumbing issues right now, make sure you keep the number handy. 317-927-7186. Online, that's ldsmithplumbing.com.
The Ride with JMV.
I am the cream, yeah. The cream of the crop. And there is no one that does it better.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, so I'm actually going to bail on Wednesday. Oh, did you just give me the re-entry from the Warriors? Let's pay our proper respect right here. Crank it up, James. The first gang that once the Bronx gathering happened and Cyrus was shot, the first gang that took a shot, not literally, but chased down the Warriors and missed. What were their names? Were they the Turnbull ACs?
I'll go with that, sure.
The Turnbull ACs. The Warriors, this date back in 1979. 47 years ago. Cinematic greatness right there. Hour number 2. I should mention Stephen Holder's going to join us at the 5 o'clock hour. Super Bowl 60 from last night. We'll get into that. Chad Buchanan, Pacer general manager tomorrow. I think Braylon Mullen's going to join us coming up. The former Mr. Basketball in this state. The UConn guard, the freshman, is going to join us, I believe, tomorrow as well. We got a lot more for you, but on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, he's having a fantastic year, and I've got a great reason why we're going to have Josh Schertz on here, just beyond talking hoop with him right now. Josh, the head coach of St. Louis, one loss St. Louis in the A-10s on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Hey, I thought maybe during this slot, you and I, this conversation, you want to prank call Dusty May in Ann Arbor? Give him a prank call or something?
That would be – actually, you know what? He called me earlier today. I couldn't pick it up because I was at a lunch meeting. So that'd be perfect. We can call him back. We can definitely prank call him. That'd be great. Why not?
What would Dusty May want calling you, like on a Monday today?
Dusty May, I don't know. You never know with that guy. He's calling, either to torture me about something I didn't do or, maybe he's, God knows. We talk probably, we talk usually a couple times a week. So but I was unable to pick it up, and I haven't hit him back yet. So this would be ideal timing. Plus, he needs to be on. He needs a little more exposure. I don't think he's getting enough attention with that Wolverines team of his. But they've managed to be, I think they're 23-1, and that's with him coaching. Imagine what they'd be if they had a really good coach. Think
about that. Josh Schertz, the head coach of St. Louis, is with us. He's famous around here because his brother-in-law has cleared the snow from my mom's driveway. They live down in Greene County, Indiana. They're neighbors, so where I grew up.
Oh, that's big time. Yeah, he's definitely more popular than Dusty then if he's doing that.
Yes, he is. There's no doubt about it. But it's funny when I always look at Michigan games, especially in Ann Arbor or if they're around here, and there's always like 50 people from Greene County sitting behind their bench. Always.
Oh, yeah, no. He really, he's a Hoosier at heart. He loves, he is Greene County to his core, and he he talks about it. He is as, Greene County's in him. He brings a lot of that to the table. Some of that feistiness he has is the Greene County, and he definitely has not forgotten. I give him a hard time, but he's obviously an unbelievable coach, and he's not forgotten where he came from.
No, he is a great dude. It's funny, that picture you've probably seen, it's a meme now where he's at the Breslin Center and those Michigan State fans, he's watching a little warm-up or whatever, sitting by himself, and they're giving the business behind him. Everybody was sending me that picture, and I said, that's nothing like playing morning basketball at Eastern Green with Mark Barnheiser. Let me tell you that. He'll be just fine.
He was in his element out there. I think some coaches, he actually, I think, went out there and then he was just soaking it up. So I was laughing with him, between that and the post-game handshake, he had quite the day.
Josh Schertz with us. The evolution of your team a year ago was your first one in St. Louis, getting your feet wet in the A-10. This has gone smashingly well so far with just one loss. Was this kind of like I mentioned the evolution of a basketball team and a program? This is how quickly you thought this thing would come together?
Yeah, you never know. Last year, we had a really rough year with injuries. We lost 4 players for the season by December 5th, and had 2 guys redshirt, and we had to unredshirt. And that team, really, even though the record wasn't great, I think we were 19-15, and we finished 5th in the A-10 and made the NIT. But they gave me everything they had, and they really did. They left it all out there. I couldn't have gotten any more from those guys. They were unbelievable to work with, had great guys. but we had to get better. We had to make moves to move forward. We lost two great players off that team, Gibson Jimerson, Isaiah Swope, who a lot of people there, from Evansville, who, was with us at Indiana State. And, those guys graduated. And so we had a lot of work to do. And I thought, this is a great situation to recruit to. And, we were able to go in the portal and we brought in 6 guys, and all 6 are impacting us. And we have 3 guys back from last year that are, playing major minutes, obviously led by Robbie Avila, but Kellen Thames and Mari McCautry. And then the 6 transfers have all really blended in, seamlessly. And we have a 9-man rotation. It's a little bit different than, the Indiana State team in 23-24 and that we're deeper. But there's a lot of similarities in terms of, how connected the group is, how hard they play, the ability to prioritize winning and team-oriented guys that, will give it up for each other.
Josh, you make a great point. I was going to say the same thing. 5 averaging double figures. That's just kind of what you want offensively. You just get guys sharing the ball. Some guys will have better nights than others, but you have that level of consistency and want to playing with one another that I think you can at least tell on paper and certainly in the box score night in and night out.
Yeah, it's a different type of team than I've ever had. I mean, we have 9 guys playing between, I think, 16 and 26, 27 minutes a night. And so there's this 9-man rotation. For most of the year, we've had 6 guys in double figures, 8 guys averaging over 8 points a game. And they share minutes. They share the ball. They've really been able to, that's the thing I didn't know was, man, we're so deep and we have so many guys. Like, we're redshirting a guy in Kaluuya that last year for us played 31 minutes a game and led us in rebounding, blocks, and steals because we didn't think he would get enough time. And so, he's redshirting, so the sacrifice there. But just throughout the roster and just like at Indiana State, Robbie sets the tone for the whole thing. He from a financial standpoint to the minutes, he played 35 minutes a game last year because we were so beat up. He's gone down to 26 minutes a game this year. And, his numbers aren't as good in terms of what he's averaging, but his per 40 numbers are the best they've been. His efficiency is the highest it's been. And, he's having a player of the year type year in the A-10, even though he's only playing 26 minutes a game. And so he sets a great tone for it. But, yeah, the team, the depth and the competitive character, every good team I've been a part of, LMU, Indiana State, and here has a lot of the same hallmarks. And this team has a lot of the same those same characteristics that make, good teams great.
That is Josh Schertz, the head coach of St. Louis, cutted up to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I've always wondered this, and I know you can tell stories where it's not always like this, but how do you keep guys happy? How do you keep guys happy that may want more clock, may want more production? How do you keep this going? Because it seems like that if there's a staple of you, first of all, it's just fun offense. You're fun as hell to watch in general. But how do you keep everybody happy? Because I think you have maintained being able to do that where a lot of coaches maybe it would be more of a struggle.
Yeah, I think it's hard. It goes back to relationships. I think we really invest in those, try to spend time with guys. We try to explain the why. We certainly, I think you always start with, in recruiting, getting guys that have a natural proclivity to team orientation. You talk about, your principles, your values, how you're going to play, and that may turn some guys off. I think, it's not just the identification of or the prioritization of, of getting guys that have high, great competitive character. It's being able to identify it. And, it really starts with that. And then, you talk a lot about, everything that people want is on the, downstream of team success, right? So and I use our Indiana State team as an example, that group, all 5 starters were named all conference in the Missouri Valley. And our 6th man was 6th man of the year. So we had 6 players honored, by the Missouri Valley on that team, and all received it because of how successful we were as a group. And I think this team is going to have a similar type deal. I had some teams at LMU that had all 5 starters make all league. And when you get guys to understand everything they want is downstream of team success, that your value as a player is wrapped up in your ability, how impactful you are and how efficient you are. So how impactful to winning you are and how efficient you are. And then you got to get guys, which they do, to give up, some of themselves for the good of the group and put that over. It's a good balance. We talk a lot about balancing ambition because you want really ambitious people in your organization. I think that's so important. but you can't have an agenda, right? There's a difference. You can be ambitious without an agenda. And we talk a lot about balancing ambition, wanting to be the player of the year in the league or make this amount of money or whatever it is you want, play in the NBA, with not having an agenda to get there. And it all starts with recruiting the right kind of guys and then building those relationships that are real and genuine and authentic.
Yeah, it also helps when you have a fun as hell offense to be a part of, and just visually speaking, it looks like you have a fun as hell offense to be a part of. How do you strike gold with that? Or I guess in your case, how did you find out this is how I want to play? And then to move further, trying to capture and bring in guys that can play at that level how you want to play and make it look and perform as best as possible.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think, for me, it's kind of an amalgamation of different things. I think we always try to bend it to the strengths of what we have. So the offense might look different. What it looked like at Indiana State was subtly different. And then like last year, we were the only team in the country, I think, because we were just so decimated. The only team in the country. We had 3 guys that averaged over 17 points a game, between Robbie Jimerson and Isaiah Swope. And then this year, it's this, widespread and kind of egalitarian type offense. And I think, it's about, understanding players, not just being able to recruit them, but understand how to utilize them. It's having some non-negotiables that you're gonna really cling to, and then being able to be malleable in the rest of it in terms of, we're gonna bend this, and what you're trying to do is get guys to play to their strength zones as often as possible, and you're trying to be as efficient as possible, which requires guys to give up parts of their game that they may like a lot of guys like shooting mid-range jumpers. It's not super efficient, and we're kind of be as efficient as we can because we want everybody on the team to play well collectively. So guys have to give up maybe some parts of their games that are inefficient that they like to do, but they'll give it up for the good of the group. And so, but we want to play fast. We want everybody to be involved. I think that's always been a hallmark going back to LMU is, to have this collective approach. It's not about one guy playing well. It's about 5 guys trying to play well at the same time, which is the most elusive thing, of course, in offensive basketball. But that's what we're striving for. And you want all the guys out there to feel like, hey, I'm getting to do what I do. I have incredible freedom inside of my game to do everything that I can do as a player. And the hallmark of individual greatness in a team sport is, can you make the guys around you better? Does your presence on the court or field make your teammates better? And we got a lot of guys that are bought into trying to, that we try to get pieces that compound each other. And I think we had that, at Indiana State, and certainly we have that this year. Yeah,
it's Josh Schertz with us, the head coach of the Billikens. Loyola of Chicago, I believe on Friday, is next up. That's a game, if you want to catch it, is on ESPN2 and see this fun as hell team to play. I love it because you bring up LMU all the time, and I'm assuming you really enjoy the fact that more of a spotlight now. And we know more about that level of basketball and how it can translate to the highest level of college basketball. I think now more than ever. Is that gratifying to you?
Yeah, super gratifying. I think the coaching, I think the players, I think it's, it's changed. And obviously, certainly you see it in basketball. Coach Signetti, right? I mean, he's done okay coming up. Yeah. One, not too bad. He's been decent, right, at Indiana. So, you see that those things do translate, and you do it outside of the public eye, and there's so many great coaches at all levels. Division II, Division III, NAIA, JUCO, AAU. You go through it, and there's no monopoly on great coaches at any level. And it is great to see, like Indiana State, a lot of our ability to get that thing turned around was, Cam Henry, Kavasi McCauley, Xavier Bledson, guys that were from LMU, and their ability to get in there and really flip it, and our ability to turn it from our first year, we won 11 games, to then the next 2 years was those guys, those LMU guys, and their impact. They were all, they all were good players at LMU, and they all became all conference players in the Missouri Valley. And our success there was in large part, not just to them, but they had a huge hand in the program, the success the last 2 years.
Do you get ideas from other teams, watching other teams, other coaches coach other teams play?
Yeah, of course. No, yeah.
When was the last time? I was curious. When's the last time you got one, and it was really impactful for you and your team? Does it resonate to you?
Yeah, no, it does. I probably, honestly, it was in some ball screen coverage stuff, and Ben McCullum, who's at Iowa now, who's been one of my best friends going back to his time at Northwest Missouri State, and then he was at Drake last year, and now he's at Iowa, and it was an adjustment in our ball screen coverage on empty ball screens, and some teaching points that they were utilizing, and we adopted them, and I think it's made a big impact on our team, and but that's where like when Dusty and I talk a couple times a week, I mean that's usually a discussion of what we're doing with our teams, what's been good, where can we. What do we like we're doing? What have we seen? What are some things, drills, teaching points, talking points? Sometimes it's just to, chop it up, but it's that and Ben McCullum and Ryan Pinone, these guys that I'm friends with, and I talk to, the variety of coaches, but I'm always looking and studying and trying to figure out, how I can do my job better. What are ways that I can improve what I'm doing? And it's not hard for me because I'm not that smart, but I try to surround myself with people a lot smarter than I. And so it makes it pretty easy when I talk to those guys. And I learned a ton. I always do for my staff too. I got a great staff here. I did there. I learned a ton from, like Matthew and the guys in Indiana State that I was with. And then the guys here, I learned a ton from my staff as well.
We got to get him back on track after that start of the season there with the whole heart stuff. Come on now.
Yeah. No,
at least he's feeling better now.
Yeah, he's doing much better. He had a tough start with that, and that came out of nowhere. And I'm glad he caught it because a lot of guys wouldn't have. And he went in to get checked, and him going in to get checked saved his life. And and that was obviously, but he was out a couple months, and that's just made it tough. But he's. The thing with Matthew is, he's going to get that right. I have zero doubt about that. He's unbelievable coach, and he's a phenomenal human being. And much like, with Dusty, I said, he's Greene County and a Hoosier to his core. Matthew is as well. And he's at his dream job. He's got all the tools to be great there. And I think in time, he's going to show that, he's going to have Indiana State, not just where we were, but push that thing even forward.
So Josh Schertz, the head coach of St. Louis, I mentioned on Friday, Loyola of Chicago, up in Chicago, 8:30, and that is on ESPN2. You did reference Curt Cignetti, and obviously that has been incredible around here. Are you able to take things away just beyond the levels in which you talked about of, knowing what a guy can bring and then take it to the ultimate level as he has down in Bloomington, even though we're talking football over basketball? Are there takeaways from Curt Cignetti and how he has evolved as a coach and what he has done with that program at Bloomington?
Absolutely. I don't know Coach Cignetti at all, but you talk about somebody that's, I'm always studying, like every podcast he's on, I listen to. I think there's incredible wisdom in what he talks about, the simplicity of what they do, being great at what they do, how disciplined they are, the way they execute, the roster building component, the way he goes about it, the efficiency with which they work. There's an incredible amount you can glean from great leadership, and regardless of, what the field is, you can always learn a ton. So if Curt Cignetti's on a podcast, or talking, I'm listening to it. There's guys no matter what, if they're talking, I'm listening. Sam Presti, there's just guys that I know, and I have it on, and I'll go find it, or somebody will send it to me. And Sean McVay, there's a group of guys that I just think do a great job in leadership, and they're not in my sport or even in my career field, that I'm always looking at. And I think you can get pearls of wisdom there. And there's a lot of translatable stuff, that Curt Cignetti's doing that in every area, from how they practice to how they build their roster to how they attack complacency. And a lot of it, is very similar to Nick Saban, who he worked for. And a lot of that is rooted there. And so another one that anytime he speaks, I'm all ears. So yes, to answer is absolutely yes. There's a lot we can take and be better from all of us as coaches that Coach Cignetti's setting.
Yeah, Josh Schertz joins us at St. Louis. In the ever-changing landscape, and that's one of the things that we brought up a number of times regarding IU and the football program and, the world of NIL and transfer portal and all that. Do you see that longer-term sustainability in St. Louis with your program, considering the landscape of college athletics, in particular in basketball right now?
Yeah, it's changed. What used to be just look at it, go back to Coach Cignetti, right? probably 5 years ago, 7 years ago, the coach at Indiana football probably is, not going to stay there over going to Michigan or Penn State, just because those programs are at that time bigger before the NIL portal, right? Now the number one thing with jobs is always, it used to be administrative commitment, alignment, and that's probably number two now. Number one is what is your NIL piece? What's your rev share? And then number two now becomes, administrative alignment and commitment to the sport you're coaching. And then number three is the league you're in, and does the league you're in give you a chance in this ever-evolving landscape to be relevant in the sport? And so I think it has changed. I think it's different now. I think the portal NIL, it used to be that if you were a mid-major coach, you had to jump to a high major job. You had to. But there's jobs now that at the high major level, because of the rev share piece, that aren't as good as some mid-major jobs. There's some mid-major jobs that are far better, particularly in basketball, than some Power 4 jobs. And so I think it's certainly changed the calculus of how you make decisions. I think always, you're looking at a variety of aspects, but in today's world, your ability to, from a rev share standpoint, from an assistant salary standpoint, a salary pool standpoint, all the infrastructure resource standpoint, you have some schools in St. Louis is positioned uniquely where there's no football. So, basketball is a huge priority for the school, and the commitment level is there to make it as good. And like I said, that's not the old days where, hey, every Power 4 job is better than every mid-major job. That time has long passed, and it's a new era, new dawn, and you'll see some mid-major programs that are far superior to some Power 4s.
It's Josh Schertz, the head coach of St. Louis. I mentioned Loyola of Chicago coming up on Friday night at 8:30. I do have to ask you in closing here, so what the hell happened in that Stanford game? The one blemish on the schedule so far. What happened?
Yeah. Oh, geez. Well, the coach fouled. The coach fouled up 3 with 4.8 seconds left. So whoever did that, and then they made the first, and then they missed the second, and we did not get the rebound, and then they kind of made a miracle 3 there at the end. And so I think the players did a great job. Maybe the coach wasn't so good, but that was. I've had some painful losses. I think that was the most improbable loss. But you're right. If we secure the rebound or whatever the case may be, or whatever would have happened, or the guy misses that miracle shot, we're 24-0, and it's and again, look, it's you never take it for granted, but certainly that was one that got a lot of scrutiny, and hindsight's always 20/20, and you have all these factors you're weighing, and at the end of the day, if I knew how it was going to turn out, I would have not fouled. If I knew we were going to win, I would have fouled, but I don't have the you don't have the advantage of hindsight in these things. Like, people always ask me, like, why do you let them shoot threes if they're missing? Well, I knew they were going to miss. I would tell them not to. I don't know. I don't have that ability in the future. But yeah, no, that was an improbable loss, one that'll stick with me for a long time. And so, but end of the day, the guys recovered, and they've overcome my coach and win 17 straight. So but that one will stick in my craw till the day I'm gone.
Well, you would do it again though, wouldn't you? Do the same thing?
Yeah, and it's always circumstantially based. I mean, do you have timeouts left?
Yeah.
We did. How good a three-point shooting team are they? They were 13 for 27. Do you have your jumbo lineup available? We had both bigs. And then the time frame, 2.5 seconds to 7.5 seconds. So it's not like you just go like every time you would do it. If you don't have a timeout, maybe you don't because you can't get the ball inbounds. But in those circumstances, I've done it many, many times. That is, unfortunately, the first time in my career it's backfired. But the 10 times it works, nobody really remembers. It's like anything else, it's the time it doesn't. But no, 100% would do it again in those same circumstances. Without a question, would do it again.
I have to live and talk with the occasionally with the DeVries family around here, and that's still even 2 years ago sticks to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how you do it. No, Darren's great. I don't like Tucker because he beat us with all those tears. I'm fine with Darren. I can't. Tucker still makes my heart sink every time I see him. Because But yeah, I remember like yesterday the Connor Enright 3, and it was brutal. We were up, Tucker makes a tough mid, and Connor Enright, we overhelp, makes a three. And so the losses always stick with you way longer. That one, it was funny because somebody asked me today, they said, I think, I was talking to John Rothstein on the podcast, and he's like, and I said, he's like, you remember that? And then in one bid league, I said, well, I thought we were in the NCAA tournament. I was crushed we lost because I wanted to win the Missouri Valley Tournament Championship. But I wasn't thinking that, man, we're not going to make the NCAA tournament. I just thought, we lost and we'll be an at-large. So it never crossed my mind until who knew it was going to be a, record-breaking, bid-stealing 6 teams. You couldn't have projected that. And then last year, of course, there was no bid stealers.
Right.
So, it was, but yeah, I didn't think that. But yeah, that one, Darren's a great guy, and he's doing terrific there at Indiana. He'll get that thing up and running, and he's good people. I'm excited for him. I'm excited for Hoosier fans there. They got 2 of the best there, and Kurt Signetti and Darren DeVries.
No, we got everybody from the state of Iowa here, except for Greg Lansing, in terms of basketball. Like everybody, any McCaffrey, any DeVries, they're all here. Everyone. Buchanan's.
Everybody from Iowa, yeah. They all come to Indiana. Well, the Iowa people, they tell me that's God's country. That's what McCullum tells me. I don't know that's true, but they all come to basketball country because they know the center, the heartbeat of basketball is in Indiana. Nobody disputes that. Now, Kurt Signetti's made football big there, but that's always anybody that's a basketball guy. It's hard to beat Indiana when it comes to people, not just that support it, love it, the passion and the knowledge of the fans.
Good to have you on again. Tell Robbie we said hello. We'll watch you on Friday night, too, and we'll do it again soon. And, go ahead and call Dusty back.
I'm going to go call him back. We could prank call him next time. I appreciate you having me on. Always great catching up.
Buddy.
We'll talk soon.
You got it. Thanks, Josh. Josh Schertz, the head coach of St. Louis on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Always a good conversation. I will say this. He is, and I think we've seen it, and you would see it even at a higher level, one of the better coaches in the nation. He is. I can see why you can follow that dude. No doubt. Quick break. We shall return. Stephen Holder, 5 o'clock. I got to find out about IU and Oregon tickets, too, from Matt Goins. I'll do that coming up. You guys on the other side, 239-1070. Super Bowl 60, IU hoops, Pacer hoops, and more coming at you next. Hey, fellas, JMV here. Moyer Fine Jewelers will help you score big this Valentine's Day. Are you ready? Get her that piece of jewelry she's had her eye on. Maybe a diamond necklace, maybe a pair of earrings. And Moyer, well, they're going to throw in chocolates from the brands and roses from McNamara Florist with your purchase. That's 3 gifts, one stop. No stress. And Moyer makes you look like a hero. That's exactly how you want to look. So go see my friends. That's Lauren and Dan and the gang at Moyer Fine Jewelers for Valentine's Day. Make it simple on yourself, and you can be a superstar this week. Again, purchase a new piece of Valentine's jewelry, and Moyer will throw in chocolates from the brands and roses from McNamara Florist with your purchase. Just in time for Valentine's Day. Here we go. That's Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. MoyerFineJewelers.com. MoyerFineJewelers.com. Tell them JMV sent you.
The Ride with JMV.
It takes him a second to get on the stool because he's under 5 feet tall.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
No, Josh Schertz, head coach of St. Louis. Really good stuff as always. Podcast at 107.5thefan.com. Stephen Holder, top of the hour. Chad Buchanan tomorrow, Pacers general manager. I think Greg's in for me on Wednesday. I'm going to take G for blood work. I need to get some blood work, too. Actually, one of the Super Bowl commercials I saw with Bruce Arians, about the prostate stuff, I'm going to do that. I got to do that. So I need a new doctor. And if you remember, I asked you guys for advice about getting me a new primary physician, and nobody has stepped up in that capacity. What the hell? What the hell? But G's got to go down in Bloomington coming up on Wednesday, so Greg Rakestraw will be in for me on that particular day. Rest of the week, all good. At JMV, 317-239-1070 is the text line. Can you tell us what Eddie Vedder was singing about? Halftime show conversation right here. I can't understand what's being said here, blah, 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 whatever. A lot of stuff we don't understand. I was entertained. I can't lie. I was entertained, and then once it ended, I switched over on the Comedy Channel, and the Seinfeld Big Salad episode was on. So I got that in before the second half started. Seriously, it was like high-level entertainment for me. I don't know what you guys are complaining about. Well, I do know what you're complaining about. You're complaining about somebody else's complaints about complaining. Who say everybody else complains too much, we're going to complain right now, so then everybody complains, and it makes your life miserable. That's why you have to drop in here so we can all celebrate having one hell of a day every single day. Even if at times we do have to be critical. I thought last night you got a couple of takeaways from the game in terms of how you relate to the Colts. Neither would be good. Even with as bad as New England looked, even with as bad as their second-year quarterback Drake May looked, they still grinded in an AFC landscape that got them there. They were still there. And I told you to look at Seattle. Seattle, to me, is the best. Not because they're the most talented. but because it seems like you go through the postseason and there have been things for them that hasn't worked, that has worked the entire year. They've been able to overcome. That is the sign of a good team. You go back to the NFC title game, you remember their defense was giving up chunks of yardage. They couldn't stay in front of Nakua. I mean, offense of the Rams up and down the field. They're arguing on the sideline. Offense propels them. And then in this game, it wasn't about the offense. It was about the defense stifling New England. To me, those are qualities that really does put together a championship team. These are all qualities that, unfortunately, the local NFL team does not possess. And no, it doesn't make the Colts look any better that New England stunk it up. Oh, well, I think the Colts are pretty close. They're not close to anything. When they're close to something, we'll all know they'll be close to something. As they say, this ain't it. 317-239-1070. Damn, JMV, I didn't realize the Warriors was that old. Speaking of music, the intro for that movie was epic when they were riding the subway from Coney Island, Brooklyn, all the way to the Bronx. What a great story. And what turned out to be, the toughest group. The toughest group they had to face were the chicks, the Lizzies. How about that? Because you know what the chicks had going for them right there? They were in disguise. There's some hot chicks. Come in here. No. We got to get you guys too. The word was sent out. 47 years ago today, the release of one of our favorite films of all time, The Warriors. Was the guy's name David Patrick Kelly? Warriors come out to play guy? Just came up with that on his own. Outstanding. Oh, you guys now are sending doctor referrals in for me. I got to get something going here. I got to get some stuff tested. I got to turn my head and cough here a little bit later. Sometimes I need to get a physical and everything. Because I've got a whole new bod right now. I got to see what's going on in the bod. I feel great. Got to have a bod evaluation. New bod. Seriously, my body right now is like, you remember, like when you go to a car show, let's say you go to Meekum in May, and there's always this story of, well, there was this old farmer and he was in the barn and he found this Plymouth Barracuda from 1971. And, the engine still worked, but they had to get it entire. They had to rebuild the body and everything. That's kind of like me. My engine still works great, but I had to rebuild the body. I've got a new body. 317-239-1070 is the text line. I love you. Enjoyed the halftime show. I chose another option. That is what living in a free country is all about. And listen, I don't begrudge you 1 ounce. Well done. I just have given the advice of don't do it because people tell you to. Do it because you want to. Clearly you did, and that is a job well done. JMV. Thank you. The storytelling, I thought, in the halftime show was great. I didn't really understand the storytelling. I didn't really understand anything. I just thought visually. I was entertained visually. What the hell? It's like 10 minutes of my life. And I've said this before. If you were to say, all right, you're going to get the Foo Fighters every single Super Bowl for the rest of your existence, I'd be fine with it. But I am okay to see other stuff. And I love gyration. A huge fan of gyration. There was a great deal of gyration that was going on. JMV, you need to get a PSA test and a colonoscopy. I did, Gritty, have a colonoscopy 2 years ago. So I've done that. But I got to get a PSA test. You're right. Brian Thomas checks in. DJ does nothing for the Colts. Better be at the top of a few drafts than floating around 500. I just mentioned this. I'm a little bit jealous of what Seattle has. And obviously it's a championship they can talk about. And they've been down that path. They've resurfaced now. Different group, different coach, all the above, same general manager, and they're winning again. But I want to see a team that's able to get through stuff and not fold up like a rusty-ass lawn chair anytime something goes haywire. Because inevitably, in a long season, where you're going to be playing like 25 games one of these days, and not that many, but you know what I mean. In a long season, stuff's going to happen. You're going to have to get through stuff. I think Seattle's a great example of not being spectacular. I mean, hell, Sam Darnold didn't have a good game. Did not have a good game. Because if he would have had even close to a good game, even a decent game, if he would have had a half-assedly decent game, he'd be the MVP, but the running back, Walker, got the MVP. So that's how you can tell. But you know what? Their team was the MVP because things that worked in their title game in the NFC, it didn't work so well last night in Santa Clara. They adjusted. Things that, and really vice versa, the defense didn't work great in the NFC title game. They were spectacular last night. That's what you're looking for here. Sure, you want top-of-the-line players, high-level players, but you have to have a team, a group, an organization, a coaching staff that's able to get through the tough times. And granted, this is one big, mediocre, tough time around here. I thought yesterday and that Super Bowl showed just how far the Colts are away with this group. You should not in the NFL, by the circumstances they create, be year after year this far away. And then not take any action whatsoever on it. That's what I gathered with that Seattle and that New England matchup. The bad with New England and the good with Seattle are both traits that this Colts team, with the path both the Patriots and the Seahawks got to Santa Clara, this Colts team, they don't possess. And I don't even know if they have the recognition to possess it. It's like you just look in the mirror and go, well, we're screwed again. Hey, we're hosed again. We can't do anything about it. Others do. Others do, and then they find themselves in a situation like last night. See if one of these days the local team recognizes that. Just being able to get through, withstand, and overcome, that is also a talent. Don't forget it. IU Oregon later on tonight. I got to find out about these tickets. I think I've got tickets in a parking fast. Yeah, that sounds great. Parking pass for tonight's game. I got to make sure I can send these bad boys off before I give them away here. If you can make it. What is that? An 8:30 tip time down in Bloomington later on tonight. That's Oregon and IU. Oregon coming off that loss at Mackey. IU coming off that win over Wisconsin. Hey, I'll double back to that. The ending situation where everybody was outraged about the calls. The final call against Wilkerson was accurate. He got tripped up. What are you going to do? You got to call that. Yeah, the offensive foul, not so much. But you have to admire how it turned into that. We'll do that coming up on the other side. 239-1070. About last night, the Super Bowl, Super Bowl 60, the commercials, the game itself. We can get to that too. 239-1070. Your calls on the other side with 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Hey, John here for Mark Dito. Mark Dito Realty. Here's the number, 317-755-4232. The best in realty is markdietel.com. Mark, DIETEL.com. Today, I talk about stories all the time. You may not be in a similar situation as others out there. Maybe you're looking for a little bit more space, a little bit more room. You're growing the family, a little bit younger, all understandable. But here's what you need. You need somebody in realty that is multifaceted, that can handle that task, whatever you need. And that's Mark Dito, Mark Dito Realty. Whether it's an upgrade, more space, or a downsize as an empty nester, nobody is better to find exactly what is necessary for you than Mark Dito, the only real estate expert I trust and recommend with the sale of my home. Mark Dito guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. Pick your move date. There are no long-term contracts, and you can cancel at any time. It's Mark Dito Realty, 317-755-4232. Write that number down. If you're not going to use it today, make sure you have it handy for later. If you need it right now, here it is again, 317-755-4232. MarkDietel.com, Mark, DIETEL.com today.
The Ride with The Ride with JMV.
Pay him. Pay that man his money.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, we got Oregon, Indiana later on tonight, 8:30, 7:30, 93 WIBC with Don Fisher, voice of the Hoosiers. Yeah, Oregon almost upset Purdue. Purdue looked like just a big load in the drawers, I thought, on Saturday. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. They got some energy draggers right now, some energy suckers. You got to find a level in which you're enjoying one another and the game again, because they don't look like they do either right now. And as I mentioned, the most often criticized player as a part of that group has been Fletcher Lawyer. And I think you guys should stop. Even if that dude goes 0 of 5, have admiration, especially the way things looked in a win on Saturday against the worst in the Big Ten, Oregon. You can't tell he's got the same attitude missing shots or making shots. Even if things are going well for these guys, they look like they're just not having fun with one another right now. And you can say, well, that's just your opinion. Watch. That had all the enthusiasm as a proctology convention on Saturday at Mackey Arena. Not even the paint crew could get up for that. And that was also evident with the players. And I've been critical of a guy that I like a great deal in Trey Kaufman-Renn, but this guy looks like he is miserable on both ends of the floor, winning, losing, whatever. Snap out of it. This is way too good of a group to be going out in this season of high-level expectations like this. It's one thing if you lose, but you can't go out like this. IU Oregon coming up later on tonight, too. Connor Enright made a play. Was it a bad call? Absolutely it was. But he made a play. I love what he said after the game. He said, yes, I was going to foul, but I thought in the process maybe I'll try to draw the foul, because why not? When you're going to foul, maybe you can get it to go the other way, and he did. That's a playmaker making a play for his team. And then Wilkerson did get fouled by Blackwell. Oregon and Indiana. All right, I've got a couple of tickets and I believe a parking pass from Matt Goins of AAA. So, James, here's what we're going to need here. Are you ready? I'm going to need number 30 on the text line. All right, you got to be able to go. Don't jack with me on this, because if I find out you don't go, it's your ass. Don't jack with me. You got to be able to go. Oregon, IU, Bloomington. I know it's a Monday night, 8:30. Who cares? Go down and have some fun. It's a basketball. Have fun. Text line 317-239-1070. James, number 30. Number 30. And I'll give you all the information, James, you're going to need in a second. This is for Oregon and IU tonight. Number 30, text line, and then you can thank my friend, the president of AAA, Matt Goins, for this. Yeah, become a AAA member. AAA.com or the AAA app. It's very simple. AAA.com or the AAA app right now. Number 30, text line 317-239-1070. We shall explain if you've got to be able to make it tonight down in Bloomington. Oregon and IU. Stephen Holder on the other side. Your calls on the other side. I would stick tight. 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. Did you know I talked to Eric Wilson today? Eric Wilson of Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st State Road 37 in Fishers. We were going over the whole incentives to buy program. And what this really is, it's like a big car buyer's coupon right here. I've discovered couponing a little bit too. This is your level with this incentives to buy of a coupon to get that new set of wheels. They have great deals going on right now. Talk to my friend Eric Wilson if you're in the market for a new ride. Eric can help you at Indiana's best. Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st State Road 37 in Fisher. So I'm talking about the inventory, the incentives to buy, and the service after the sale to make sure you raise the bar on that life expectancy of whatever you purchase. It is all right there for you. One-stop, hassle-free shopping, and incredible incentives to buy. Ask for Eric Wilson today. Have him set the pace for that new set of wheels. And one-stop shopping at Andy Moore Buick GMC, 131st State Road 37 in Fishers.
The Ride with JMV.
Just an average guy with exceptional hair.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
I think James has reached out to somebody. So reach back. Reach back and grab James so I can send this down the pipeline and get you guys going. Bad news today. We kind of feared the worst if you were watching the Pacers in Toronto yesterday. Mike Scotto, and I think that Tony East has confirmed it as well, reports that swingman Johnny Furphy underwent an MRI today. The confirmation is Furphy has a torn right ACL. So a torn ACL, according to Michael Scotto, for Pacers swingman Johnny Furphy. That sucks. Yeah, you knew yesterday if you were watching that game that something was not right at all. Torn ACL. Furphy. Get back to you guys in just a second. Text line 317-239-1070. Of course, if you're on hold, we'll get to any calls you guys want to get into. Super Bowl 60, IU, Oregon later on tonight, the weekend of college basketball, Pacer stuff. That and more we can get to. Yeah, halftime. I know I haven't spent a lot of time. Here's one of the reasons why. It's almost like you guys really didn't care. I think you guys checked out just in general for a lot of it. That's why we're going to get back into it right now. That and some of those, I think, connections I made relatables to that of the Colts and where they are right now. The Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline, ESPN on ESPN.com. He is Stephen Holder. You know, I came up with a couple of relatables regarding the Colts. One would not be, considering how bad New England was, that doesn't make the Colts any closer to anything right now, because New England is a grind team, and I still think you give them credit because in that AFC landscape, they actually made it to Santa Clara in that capacity. And I think that most noted to me, the thing I want to see out of the Colts, and this group has been completely unable to do it, is being able to overcome, to withstand, to get past, no matter the situation. And we've seen, not injury-wise, but just we saw a defense in Seattle in the title game in the NFC that didn't look great. They squabbled on the sideline. And then we saw a dominant defense in the Super Bowl last night. We saw the offense look good in the title game, didn't look good, got picked up by the defense. The good teams always overcome situations. This Colts team rarely overcomes anything. And that's what I think I could take away for the Colts moving forward from the Super Bowl champions.
Yeah, I have a few takeaways. I think I don't disagree with that. I think along the same lines, one thing I would add to that is they have not risen to the occasion in big games, you know, because there were reasons late in the season where people were kind of like, you know, I'm not too sure about these Seahawks, right? We heard a little bit of that. I didn't buy it, but I mean, we heard a little bit of that. But you notice toward the end of the season, they truly rose to the occasion. I think I would say week 18, and then in the playoffs, you know, they really did step up. And the Colts in the last, I don't know, 3 years or so, each time late in the season, they've had a chance to kind of be in the mix and win a big game late in the season. They fall flat every time. So that's one takeaway that shows you that they've got to overcome that before they can ever talk about doing anything in the grand scheme. The other thing is very simple. Defense. Look, that Seattle offense last night, I'm not going to say it was ineffective. I mean, you know, Kenneth Walker had 133 yards, I believe. That's a big game. They had a couple of big plays in the passing game. So it's not as if they didn't show up at all. I'm not saying that. But that being said, I don't think they won that game with offense. It's very clear. They won that game with defense. And the Colts, for all of their quarterback issues in recent years, which have been legitimate, their defense has not really picked them up at times. And that's the thing about Seattle is when all else fails, they have a tremendous defense, and they've built it organically, too, for the most part. So I really respect them for that, and it has buried them to a great degree.
Yeah, I enjoy watching them not have consistency, but still playing at a high level and getting things done, or a higher level and getting things done without that consistency. And it almost seems like around here you always have to have everything at the highest optimum level, and everything's got to be feeling good and in rhythm, and everything's going right to succeed. And we've been witness, I think, to both those teams that to win at that level, that's not the case.
Yeah, and then to top it all off, the other obvious issue with the Colts is that they haven't had quarterback consistency. So when your defense, if your defense makes a few plays, it gives you an opportunity. You saw Sam Darnold at times in that game say, all right, here's my opportunity, and make the big play. And that is what's lacking, or has been lacking a lot over the years for the Colts. So, could Daniel Jones be that guy? I mean, yeah, if he's on the field, but, that's always a question unto itself, right? So I think in some ways, you could look at this Super Bowl and say to yourself, if you're a Colts fan, you could talk yourself into this as a Colts fan. You could say, you know what? Neither of those teams were supposed to be there. So why can't we do that, right? But on the other end, you could also look at that game and have the takeaways that we are discussing right now, which also suggests that they have a long way to go. So it can be pretty sobering depending on how you look at it.
All right, so timetable-wise, what are some of the things they're going to be looking at with no first-rounders at the Combine? I know that's coming up next, and then we'll get into the month of March and some free agency, and we'll see how they end up dabbling into that. What are some of these first steps that we're going to see the Colts take coming up after this close of the season?
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously the first order of business in terms of the current roster is Daniel Jones. I think that'll be the priority, but at the same time, I think there's less, there's a lot less uncertainty about that, right? Like both sides have kind of said, we're going to figure it out. We'll make this happen. I haven't heard that with Alec Pierce. And so that's the interesting one for me, because I got to think that we are going to hear a lot of talk and chatter about Alec Pierce here in the coming weeks. I'm already hearing a little bit from my colleagues. I won't name names yet because I don't know how much of that is just BS. But people are talking about him, and I think that chatter is going to increase in the coming weeks about teams that are interested in Alec Pierce, and I think there are going to be quite a few. And I still want to see if the Colts and what are the corresponding moves if you do it, like. What does that mean for Michael Pittman? I'm not saying they cut him. I have no idea. I'm just saying, what does that mean elsewhere? And how do they manage that salary cap? I'm very interested to see how that goes. I don't know the answer yet, but I will tell you that there hasn't been a lot of momentum. But it's okay. It's early. It's very, very early.
Did you happen to know how the fans feel regarding Pierce and Pittman Jr., as far as the divide is concerned of what they believe to be prioritizing? How do the Colts, in your estimation, view Pittman Jr. in terms of his priority moving forward?
So, it's interesting. Like, I think with Pittman, I think that what they like is the consistency with him. And it might not be big plays. It might not always be flashy. It's rarely flashy, right? But I do think there is something to be said for when you need a play, you just need a catch, you just need a reception. Somebody just move the chains. As elementary as that might sound, it is nice to know you have a guy who you can absolutely count on to do that. Now, what is that worth to you monetarily, right? That everything has a cost, so that's then the question. But I do think his consistency, his toughness, all of those things, he brings that element to the roster, and there is value in that. I think his accountability, I love that. Like after week 18 in Houston, for him to get up there and say, I should have done more this year. I wasn't good enough, and to confront that. And to have his younger teammates hear that and to say, all right, well, if he can admit to that, then I got to admit to that too. Again, I'm not saying you should pay 20 some odd $20 million for that, but I'm just saying there is value in that. So he's a big part of this team, well liked and beloved, and I think we'll have to just see how it all plays out. But I don't assume that he won't be here. I'm not in that camp.
Now, Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com is on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Do you have a dollar figure in mind as far as Daniel Jones is concerned here?
Man, I really don't. It's just such a. I know it's a terrible radio answer, but it's a tough one, man. Like, how do you arrive at a number here? I would say, I think a lot of people have cited. I think is it the Baker Mayfield contract? I want to say I've heard people cite as an example. I'm trying to remember the numbers right now, and it is escaping me with my old age. But that made sense. I think it was something like, what do you get, 3 for? Was it like 80-ish or something like that? I can't remember. It's probably more than that. But my point is 3 for 90, I think. That's fine. I think that is manageable from a cap perspective. I don't think this has to be something that is just completely out of left field. I think they can have a manageable deal here and get this done. But the injury is just such a big variable, though, that I just don't know how you handle that. How do you factor in the injury, protect yourself? The player's going to want to protect himself. There's some competing interests there, and I just think that makes it a little bit delicate. So we'll see. I think for me, the guarantees are going to be the question. I don't think it's the number. I think it's the guarantees factoring in his injury situation.
It's Stephen Holder, kind enough to join us on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. So what did you think of everything else surrounding the Super Bowl last night? I thought that most had a preconceived notion that the game wasn't going to be any good and kind of had checked out. And, yeah, you can argue that certainly the game itself backed that up. But what did you think about the whole presentation, considering not just what we witnessed, the game and, all the entertainment value, but a weekend in Santa Clara, which I saw a lot of complaining about because San Francisco to Santa Clara is not just walking across the street, evidently.
So I'll take that first. I covered the last Super Bowl out there, which was Peyton's last ride. I was there for that, and they're not wrong. I mean, geographically, it's not great. And you are about an hour away where everything's sort of based in downtown San Francisco, which is great, but you're an hour away from the stadium, from Levi Stadium. So from that perspective, it's not great. And then, so for example, I heard from a friend who was attending the game this weekend, and they were staying in San Jose and asking me, hey, what should we do? And I'm like, well, I don't know. All the people I know are in San Francisco, so how the hell should I know? So logistically, it's always crazy when you have one of those cities with 2 regions, and everybody wants a piece of it. They did that also in Minneapolis, St. Paul a few years ago, if you recall, which I think was Eagles-Patriots, right? So we've had this a lot. The Colts and Saints Super Bowl, which I covered, you had one team based in Fort Lauderdale, another in downtown Miami. Well, that's like 2 different planets, man. So anyway, that's just the politics of the Super Bowl. I would say in terms of the game, yeah, look, this wasn't a banner game that we're going to talk about 10 years from now. It just wasn't, and that's okay. I don't think every Super Bowl has to be an instant classic. It just is what it is sometimes, man. So I was underwhelmed like everybody else, and I wish it wasn't the case. But, look, every time New England had a chance to maybe make it a game and make it more interesting in that second half, they failed to do that. So I just think that's just the kind of night it was. The last thing I would say is on the halftime show, look, I don't know Bad Bunny songs either, right? And that's hardly the first artist that they have had where I said, okay, well, I don't know this person's songs and I don't care. But I would say this, number one, that never bothered me. It was just like, all right, I shrug and move on. So it's not controversial, in my opinion. What I would say, though, here's a couple of takeaways. Number one, the presentation of it, the entertainment value, just the showmanship of it, high quality. That was pretty good, I thought, right? And just from the perspective of all the elements you saw visually and all that. That's the first thing. Secondly, you got to understand what you're seeing. The NFL doesn't need to cater to you, football fan in Middle America. They already have you. They don't care, okay? They already got you. You can say whatever you want. They can't expand their market in America because everybody in America who's going to watch football already watches football. So that's why they're playing games in Brazil and Berlin and Australia, and because the only way to broaden their audience is to go abroad. And there are more, I think there are, outside of English and maybe, I don't know, the Asian languages, I mean, Spanish is the next biggest language, I would think, right? So they're trying to tap into that market. That's all it is. And if you're them, it makes perfect sense.
I didn't mind it at all. I thought it was fun. I mentioned this a little bit earlier because, there was this, this was stuff about, why didn't you go over and watch this and Kid Rock and the other stuff? And I said, well, I've seen Kid Rock before. I kind of know what that's going to be like. And I watched this because I just didn't really jack with going anyplace else. It was right there for me. But I didn't really care that I didn't understand. I took 2 years of Spanish and only learned really cuss words or cursing phrases, if you will, and that was about it. But the other thing was, to me, I listen to a lot of music that I don't really understand the words. Like, I love Want to Be Starting Something, but I have no idea what Mama Say, Mama Saw, Michael Saw 100 times said in like a minute means. I don't know what the hell Susudio means, and I love that song, so it's all good. I think people should watch what they watch, and I suggested this. Do not be at all intimidated by those out there that practice as merchants of misery to get you feeling bad about one or the other. Do what you want. Enjoy it. It's music. That's why it's there.
I love that. And listen, I mean, I've been to Puerto Rico, and if you haven't, by the way, you should sure as hell go. And I felt like, forget about Puerto Rico. Okay, look, you're talking about a guy from Miami. I felt like that was a random club on Ocean Drive. Okay, I felt like I was in some, you ever go down to South Beach, you ever go to like, Mango's or something. If you know what I'm talking about, if you ever been there, you know what the hell I'm talking about.
I went to the carousel in Fort Lauderdale when I was down there for the national championship game, and that's exactly what the carousel looked like. It was fun.
Yeah, it sounds like it, looks like it. You know what I mean? And you, let me tell you, it's very hard not to enjoy it. Okay. So, by the way, this is way off the subject, and I don't think my wife listens to your show, so it don't matter. I remember years ago during the World Cup, a friend of mine, we went down to South Beach. They had back then they had the old All-Star Cafe. Do you remember like Tiger Woods and all those guys? Were a bunch of you remember that? They had big All-Star Cafe right down there by the Clevelander. And it was a bunch of star athletes that had a collaboration. And, they had these restaurants around the country. So anyway, we were watching the World Cup final with Brazil in it at the All-Star Cafe. Little did we know Brazil's in the game. The Brazilian fans had taken over Ocean Drive. They win. And they shut down Ocean Drive that night. And let me tell you, the sights, okay? I didn't know what the hell they were saying. I didn't know any of the words to the music they were playing. I had the time of my life. Okay, let me just leave it at that.
I said this earlier. I'm always a huge fan. I have been my entire life of tremendous gyration. I love gyration.
Gyration is good for us. It's good for everybody.
It is, man. Yeah, I didn't mind it in the least. Visually, it was certainly interesting. You wanted to just see where it went next. Where he was going to walk next, and who else may pop up. I think that's always a part of it. What artists also are going to be a part of it too. So pretty cool. It was. All right.
Yeah. By the way, real quick, I got a Twitter message here from a listener of yours.
Yes.
He's tagging us. And he says here, watching the Super Bowl, Colts players looked really slow. Let's see what his name is.
Skivvies is right. I thought he was accurate in that assessment. They do look slow. compared to that.
And do you remember? I bring that up because he's actually on point. Because do you remember in Chris Ballard's closing press conference, he acknowledged that. He said, we have to add some speed. So I will go back to your question about the combine. That needs to be very high on the priority list. Get some speed in that building, particularly on defense. And that's what he was talking about. They're a step behind on defense, and I think they've got to have some guys who can close and make some plays.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, did you see Zaire Franklin on with Jeff Teague in that podcast about to get into it with each other? Did you see that?
There was a lot going on there, my friend. that was crazy.
I
think the lesson here is fewer podcasts. That's the lesson.
How is this dude never learned that? I know. Do you qualify it as learning because you no longer have your own? Is that learning, or because he still go? How do you continue to put yourself in these situations?
Well, so I look at it this way. Well, I will say this. If you haven't seen the video, it's on Twitter. You can find it pretty easily. But in this situation, I do think Jeff Teague was definitely antagonizing him. There's no question. So I will defend Zaire a little bit here. However, to your point, when you put yourself out there like this, what is the whole point of these podcasts? It's to get eyeballs, right? It's to get listeners, to get attention, to get eyeballs. So that's why people say the crazy things that they say on these athlete podcasts. I mean, they don't have anything to lose. They're retired, right? Most of these guys who have these shows,
Jeff Teague's like the coach of Teague's the coach of Pike High School, and they're good.
Well, fair.
They're good. Yeah,
that's true.
It's weird how that whole dynamic works right there. But I guess if you're winning, that's what matters.
But generally speaking,
yeah.
But generally speaking, the words that are going to make headlines are those of current players, right? Because they have to answer to people. So. I don't think it was anything. I don't think in this instance Zaire did anything over the top per se, other than he got mad, right? And I get why he got mad, but also it's not the kind of attention that I think you're seeking, right? I don't believe that's what you're looking for, but those things come when you put yourself in those mediums which are kind of looking for attention to some degree. And again, I look at all those athlete podcasts and the clips, and I enjoy the viral moments too. But I'm just watching it. I don't have to answer questions about it either.
I would say this in closing is that you have to fully understand the tone of how things are going with you and your team around here. You need to recognize that, or maybe somebody should tell you should recognize that and proceed with caution. And that is not the direction in which I would go to bring more attention to you about a subject with a fan base around here that is clearly sore about you and this team. It's not just him individually, but it's this team. Mm-hmm. They're sore about it. And if you were winning, then this goes over completely differently. But you're not. You're disappointing. You're mediocre. It's the same old, same old. And the last thing people around here want to hear is something like that. That's just my thought. As fans of the Colts, I mean, otherwise, you probably want to see these dudes fight, to be honest with you. You want to see them fight. They're not, but you want to see them fight. But the Colts fans don't want to hear that, and I don't think that is really what they call tone deaf in terms of where you're putting yourself with the fans here. Somebody probably should advise to the contrary for him, I would imagine. And if they haven't already, then it's probably too damn late anyway, so.
Right. Well, I mean, there have been discussions for sure. I don't know exactly what was said, but we know there have been discussions from the brass to him. Now, the one thing I would say is I don't disagree with what you said there. You're right. I mean, you have to understand how things are going to be perceived. Now, what I would say about Zaire, I don't want to speak for him, but my perception is that he is fine with being perceived in a certain way, and he can live with it. So, hey, knock yourself out, right? But as long as you are okay with being the bad guy and being the villain, I think he embraces that to a degree. I'm not sure I would be the same way, but I think he is. And that's the interesting part of this is that he kind of wants the smoke, and I don't know if that's advisable, but I think he goes into it with his eyes open. So that's my takeaway of the whole thing, and you can make of that whatever you want.
Well, do you think that he all realizes here too that I don't know if I've seen a dude and do it on his own go for being so incredibly likable to mostly loathed by a fan base here as he has. And wanting the smoke or not, I don't know why you would feel compelled to want to be viewed that way. That's just me. And lose what he had, because he was one of the more likable guys and more attractive in terms of fan interest of guy, hardworking, late round selection, good dude. And he is not even in the general vicinity of that any longer. And I don't understand why, wanting the smoke or not, you would want to be viewed completely at a 180 to that if you were him. That's the part I don't get.
No, that's fair. I would say that I am definitely built different. I don't necessarily want the smoke, but some of us are wired differently, I guess.
Yeah,
I think you're right. I agree with you. I do think that he represents a great story. He still is, right? He still is a great story in the grand scheme, right, of a guy who came from the 7th round to the Pro Bowl, All-Pro, made a lot of money. That's a great story. And I have happily told it, right? But you are correct that, people are very fickle. They see you in a certain way, and you can lose that good favor with them very easily. And if he's okay with it, then that's fine. But I do think you have to understand, the optics of that.
Yeah, no doubt. Stephen Holder of ESPN and ESPN.com's on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. Man, I appreciate you. We'll do it again next week.
All right, you got it.
Thank you, buddy. Stephen Holder on the Andy Moore Automotive Group hotline. I believe that is the 520 podcast with Jeff Teague and Zaire Franklin. I guess if you want that, that's fine. He was viewed like a 180 so differently in the past than he is right now by fans. And if it were me, I don't know why, but I guess only he knows as to why. And that's enough. Quick break. We'll come back. You and I the rest of the way. Final 30 at 239-1070. Don't go anywhere. It's 93.5, 107.5 The Fan. John for WeGrowHairAndy.com, 317-522-2995. Your real growing hair again's a phone call away. That's Darren Andrews that will put you on the path to having the hair that you used to have. That unfortunately, because that's just the rite of passage with most dudes out there, you are losing ground on right now. Regain your real growing hair with a call, 317-522-2995. That's Darren Andrews. He will get you started with WeGrowHairAndy.com today. Hey, JMV here. Moyer Fine Jewelers will help you score fellas big this Valentine's Day. Get her that piece of jewelry she's had her eye on. Maybe that's a diamond necklace. How about a pair of earrings? And Moyer's going to throw in chocolates from DeBrands and roses from McNamara Florist with your purchase. That's 3 gifts, 1 stop, no stress. For Valentine's Day, you can be a hero with Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. So go see my friends before Valentine's Day at Moyer and make it simple on yourself to look like the hero this week. Get her that piece of jewelry for Valentine's Day. And Moyer's going to throw in chocolates from DeBrands and roses from McNamara Florist with your purchase. Lauren and Dan and the gang at Moyer Fine Jewelers in Carmel. That's MoyerFineJewelers.com. MoyerFineJewelers.com. Tell them JMV sent you.
The Ride with JMV.
Smokey, this is not Nam. This is bowling. There are rules.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Hey, welcome back. I can understand Vetter, okay, I think. I can understand this. Why you got so much 90s last night was because Seattle and their most significant contribution to pop culture, the 90s. Think about it for a moment, right? Music, coffee, the 90s, all staples of what we know today. The 1990s, that was Seattle. That's why you had so much 90s influence on the broadcast and the commercials last night. It makes marketing genius sense. Hopefully you enjoyed it. JMV, 317-239-1070 is the text line. I think, considering the injury history, if the Colts decide to pay Jones much more than $30 million a year, then they're nuts. No way he's higher than that because many roster holes along the past injuries. Thank you, Nick. JMV, gyration is universal. No, I get that. I'm a big fan of gyration. So a lot of gyration on the halftime show, and I dig it. Really dig it. JMV, Officer Craig here. I was actually pleasantly surprised with the halftime show. Not sure what I expected, but I thought it was enjoyable, even though I have no idea what the hell was being said, but that's okay. Hundreds of shaking booties in about 20 minutes. True that. However, as soon as it was over, I pulled up Prince's halftime show during the Colts Super Bowl 41, to show Lucy, my 16-year-old daughter. She recently just learned about Prince's music and all. I think the halftime show will always be the greatest of all time. I would absolutely agree. Also, Zaire Franklin is a crybaby. No joke. Here's the thing about Zaire Franklin. He's being who he wants to be. And it's just my opinion to question why you would want to go with such a likable personality in the past and be the personality that you are with Colts fans right now. And my point was just recognizing where your fan base is and how they respond to you. I mean, really, if you win, you can do anything. If you win and you have fungus on your shower shoes, that means you're colorful. But if you lose and you have fungus on your shower shoes, that means you're a slob. Now, that's, of course, quotable from the film Bull Durham, but it applies here. You're viewed differently on whether or not you win or you lose. But he had a great personality, and I thought a great relationship with the fans prior to that. And for whatever reason, he has decided to choose, as I think Steven had aptly described, he has decided to choose a different path and wanting smoke that, to me, is completely unnecessary. And why he would, I don't know. JMV, does IU dance this year? I think it would be really hard for them to lose their way out of this. Like massively disappointing hard to them. But we have to see a consistent IU. There are moments late in games, and maybe we'll look for that later on tonight, but moments late in games in which they don't function well. They have done what? They've blown a lot of leads this season. Now, they end up beating Wisconsin. You can't give one back to the worst team right now in the Big Ten in Oregon after they just played like you did on Saturday, and they're on a tremendously long East Coast or Midwest, in this case, Big Ten road trip. You can't give this thing up tonight. But yes, I don't see why there shouldn't be any reason why this team should not be in the NCAA tournament. At this point, you would have to significantly play your way out, and we'd be all over that. Oregon, Indiana, 8:30 tonight, 7:30 coverage begins, 93 WIBC. I believe the Ducks are losers of 9 straight. Got to tag them with that double-digit loss. Make it 10. Southern Illinois, Indiana State also on the schedule later on this evening. The bad news today regarding Johnny Furphy. You saw the injury yesterday if you're watching the Pacers in Toronto. Right knee injury. Torn right ACL for Johnny Furphy. That was reported earlier today and now been made official by the Pacers. Johnny Furphy. And that does stink. Meantime, 239-1070 is that number. Line 2 is Joey talking Boilermakers. Hello, Joey. How are you?
JMV, how you doing today?
Great, brother. Go ahead, man. Great to hear from you. Go ahead, Joey.
Hey, so, talking Boilers, what's wrong with them? I felt like they started the year so hot that Iowa State dismantled them. They seemed to get right back on track. And then this recent bad streak, between the 3-game losses, then barely getting past Oregon at home. What's going on with that?
They do not look like they enjoy playing with one another right now. Whether Trey Kaufman-Wren, to me, is the one that looks like he looks like he's having no enjoyment whatsoever. And people are pointing the finger at Braden Smith and the accolades and getting tired of him. But they need to stop all the energy sucking and start to replenish, recreate what they're supposed to be. Because you don't want to go out like this. They won that game on Saturday against Oregon, but it was just no energy, no enthusiasm. And we're talking about dudes who've been around long enough to know better than what we have witnessed. This is, to me, all on them. And I know it's going to be on Matt, too, to find a solution for it. But if guys need to grab some bench, guys need to grab some bench. Because watching that act on Saturday play out, through 40 minutes of basketball against the worst team in the Big Ten. It was pretty awful to watch, and you could tell in the fans of the stands, there was no enthusiasm whatsoever, and to me, that starts with the team. And you have guys that have been around there way too long to be acting and looking like that.
Couldn't agree more. Too many four-year guys on that team for that to be happening.
Way too many. So somebody's going to have to grab the bull by the horns on this, whether it's Matt or some of these guys. And I mentioned this a little bit earlier. Everybody always gets on Fletcher Lawyer because Fletcher Lawyer, if he's not knocking down shots, he can't play, he can't guard anybody. I'm going to give him credit on this because he may be missing a ton of shots. You can't tell if he's missing or making. He's got the same attitude out there, and I have a great deal of respect for that. You can tell how things are going with some of these other guys, and that's problematic.
Awesome. Well, hey, thanks so much, JMV. Appreciate you, man.
Joey, you call anytime. Bill, we'll close out with your call coming up on the other side of 239-1070. Anybody else that wants to jump in, we can. Johnny Furphy, torn ACL. Done for the season, obviously. We'll get into that, too. Pacers, by the way, back on the road tomorrow night against New York. 122-104 losers in Toronto yesterday afternoon. Johnny Furphy, a torn ACL. All right. Oregon IU tonight, 8:30. Tip time down in Bloomington. 7:30. Coverage begins 93 WIBC. Loaded show, including Chad Buchanan, coming up for you tomorrow after 3 o'clock. I'll tell you about that. Get to your calls and close out the Monday edition of this show. Coming up next. Great idea for you. This may be the time, too, because it's been a long winter, really a short time, but a long winter so far for extreme cold temperatures. And we want to see if your heating unit is working the way that it should. It's been compromised in efficiency, which could lead to bad things, costing you a lot of money, and then ultimately leaving you very uncomfortable in your home. That's why you call on the best, John and Chris Love at Love Heating and Air. 317-353-2141. Have them, as we get a little bit warmer now in the days to come, check on the working, the functioning of your heating unit to make sure it's working efficiently. If it isn't, they can repair it. If you need a repair, mention my name, get $95 off the service fee right now with Love Heating and Air. The best to keep you comfortable. They're going to maintain great deals for you, including a repair. Mention my name. Get $95 off. 317-353-2141. That's online, love-hvac.com today.
The Ride with JMV.
It's called Sex Panther by Odeon. It's illegal in 9 countries.
It's quite pungent. It stings the nostrils.
93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Pacer General Manager Chad Buchanan is scheduled in coming up tomorrow. Johnny Furphy, torn ACL. Happened yesterday in that game in Toronto. Pacers get the Knicks coming up tomorrow night. I saw the video of the arrival of both the Zubats and Kobe Brown. Yesterday, I think it was Buchanan that was out there on the tarmac that caught him getting off the plane. So we'll see how that works out. And it's funny. So I was on with Tony Cass this morning, and we always talk about gap years and losing and tanking and such. Let's face it, at this point, I don't know how really much you have to tank considering how much you're probably going to take a beating in the remainder of the season. But whatever can magnify your chances of good fortune in the top 4, you have to embrace. I hate it, but you have to embrace it. But I think the Pacers have enough to embrace it on their own, meaning losing games on their own. Bill's up next at 239-1070. Hello, Bill. How are you? Bill, are you there?
Yes, sir.
Hello, Bill.
You didn't hear the bottles clanking together?
I heard. Oh yeah, you were doing little Warriors right there with the bottles. That's what you were doing?
Yep, that's exactly what I was doing.
Little Warriors come out and play action right there. Shout out to you, Billy.
Probably the iconic scene in that movie, but if I was in that movie, they definitely would have made me an orphan, which, you know,
David.
I would have been standing on top of some building and everything.
David,
but anyway,
they ran from the orphans too. I guess they really kind of ran from everybody right there. And Ajax always wondered why they were always doing this running. The Warriors, by the way, 47 years ago today was released, and you did the bottles clanking and the Warriors come out and play. That was Luther in the film. I believe the actor's name is David Patrick Kelly. Came up with that idea from somebody in his neighborhood in New York when he was younger that used to tease him and would say, Dave. That's how he came up with that idea on the fly. He ad-libbed that moment in the film, which is iconic.
Man, it's amazing how back then you could ad-lib and everything and get kind of a pass from the director and the producer, but I don't think you can do that very much now. I think there's too much money tied up in writers and stuff like that, so you can't really improvise. But I wanted to talk a little bit about black sports history in Indiana and a couple of interesting facts. West Baden Springs and the French Lick Casino back in 1912 each had the house baseball team, and it was an all Negro black team for each side. For French Lick, it was the Plutos. It was the French Lick Plutos, and for West Baden, there was the West Baden Sprudels. And so they had. And they played entertaining baseball, and that brought people to the.
What year was that again?
That was 1912.
Wow!
And they were paid. I mean, I know that Jackie Robinson. You got to look at it. He was the first major league player, black player that was in the league and got paid. Bud Fowler played professional baseball in Terre Haute, Indiana. He played in it was the 1888, I believe. There was a team called the Crawfordsville Hoosiers that folded halfway through that year and moved to Terre Haute. And so Bud Fowler played in Terre Haute. And if you Google Bud Fowler baseball, you'll have the team picture from Keokuk, Iowa, back in 1878. And he was the only black guy that was on the
You
team.
are quite the historian, Billy, man. That's good info.
Well, man, I tell you, I might be boring the crowd here a little bit, but there's more to him. He was also the first black manager and black team owner in professional baseball. He was a part owner in the Adrian, Michigan. They had a fencing company there, so that's who sponsored the baseball team. But he was the one that pushed hard to get rid of the reserve clause. He recognized that the reserve clause, as it was in baseball, where the players were treated as property, was kind of like slavery. And he was totally against that. And, as it is today, there still is the reserve clause in baseball. But the agents are so powerful and everything, there's no way that Major League Baseball could get away with that without a major lawsuit. And they took the reserve clause. Kurt Flood, who used to play for the St. Louis Cardinals,
I remember those moments too, right there. So
took Bowie Kuhn to the Supreme Court.
He was
the commissioner of the league.
He did. I mean, Billy with the history right there. I got to run here, but I appreciate you, Billy, for a little historic view, especially in terms of the state of Indiana. Well done. Thank you, Billy. Hey, Colin, close this thing out with the Boilermaker call. Go ahead. Boilermaker conversation, Colin. Go.
Hey, JMV, I'm from the same hometown as Jack Benner, so I got to ask you a question about Purdue basketball. It seems to me late in games, Purdue seems to get clogged up when they play the two bigs, and Braden can't really do his thing. And when you got two bigs down low that nobody can stretch the floor, it just seems that, if you get the ball to Trakoff and Wren, whoever's guarding either Oscar Clough or Jacobson, they're just sitting in the lane. I just want to get your thoughts on what your thoughts are.
Sure, and thank you. It's Brownstown, Indiana, by the way, the home of Jack Benter. I don't think it's so much about the execution and the style in which they play. They played a miserable band, or I should say a miserable brand of basketball on Saturday. And I don't know if you're getting tired of playing one another, or it was just a moment or a couple of moments, a couple of games, but I think you can just see more so than the execution or the style of play, they just have to find some enjoyment, some energy in what they're doing, and that was prevalent on Saturday. They didn't have it. Got to win, though. Oregon IU tonight, 8:30. Coverage 93 on WIBC starts at 7:30 tonight. It does. Josh Schertz, head coach of St. Louis. Stephen Holder, podcast 1075thefan.com. Pacer GM Chad Buchanan on tomorrow's show. Have a great night.